Hello, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural episode of My Teen Angst Has a Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kyle. Who else do we have here today?
This is Jaimie, also here today.
Well, you also have us all the time. I don't know why I opened it up like that, but we're your hosts of this show. And we're about to embark on a really fun journey here. Me and Jaimie have been talking about doing something like this for what feels like forever. And the show, My Teen Angst Has a Podcast, is going to feature predominantly teen angst. Correct. Am I right about this, Jaimie?
Absolutely. We are here for the teen angst.
And I guess, I don't know, maybe you can enlighten the listeners exactly what we mean by that. What are we going to be doing here?
All right. So our plan here is to cover teen drama shows that we grew up watching that we were probably too young to fully understand a lot of them at the time, but we still have big opinions about.
Right, because that's the charm about a teen drama, right? I mean, it's in a way it's almost for no one because it's kind of not really for the teens in a lot of ways.
Not even. No. All of those
Okay.
20-somethings playing teenagers, I think now is the time to cover it, now that we are beyond our teen years.
Yeah, it feels like I haven't been a teen for 2 decades, but that is not true.
Got a lot of leftover teen angst, though, I gotta say.
A lot of leftover, yeah, that's a fact. Well, and going through this idea, we were trying to think of shows that we wanted to cover, and we basically have a laundry list of shows that we eventually would like to cover on the show. I don't think we'll ever run out of that. But the one that we want to start with, which is near and dear to our hearts, and also it'll potentially and hopefully set the stage for a lot of the ones in the future that are from the country we reside in, which is Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh, God. So, yeah, the show, it's Radio Free Roscoe. We're going to be starting with Radio Free Roscoe.
RFR. Near
Correct.
and dear to our hearts.
Yeah, and just like, every show made in Canada from like 2001 to 2010, they're all kind of connected in some way. Usually through Degrassi.
Usually through Degrassi, yeah. If you are on a Canadian TV show, you probably were also on Degrassi at some point.
Yeah, it's almost a given. But we're going to start with Radio Free Roscoe. The format of the show is we will be covering 3 episodes of RFR per podcast. RFR is up until recently, it was a little hard to get your hands on. But thanks to the internet gods, you can watch like the entire series on YouTube. So that's probably your best way to watch the show with us if you'd like to. I'll put in like a playlist link in the description of this episode so folks can follow along. But, this is the first episode of us covering it. So we'll talk, about the show and then we'll get into the episodes. Did I cover everything, Jaimie? Am I missing something here?
I don't think so. I think you got it.
Okay. Well, maybe we can just start. We can talk a little bit about maybe what I don't know, not necessarily what we like about RFR, but our relationship with RFR. Where does it all stem back?
Why it's so important to us.
Why? Okay, well, Jaimie, let's start with you. Why is it so important?
All right. The year is 2004.
Right.
Family Channel starts showing Radio Free Roscoe in their evening lineup, and I am hooked. What am I? 9-10-year-old Jaimie is just first episode, just in it. I remember hanging out with a friend of mine, and we would pretend to have a radio station. We'd pretend to play Radio Free Roscoe. We loved it. And I don't know, the show just was, easy to watch, easy to follow. It was really, it made me so excited to be a teenager because, that's what teenagers do. They have their own radio shows,
They have their own secret hideout.
We'll get into that. That's one of my notes. I don't know what it was. Something about the cast, something about the story. Just it hooked me. I was very, very interested for the entire 52 episodes that it ran, or 54, whatever it was. But yeah, I don't know. It just Something about it. It's
just
the
hooked you
theme
in.
song. I think the theme song really just pulled me in and I couldn't let go.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It hits a certain niche for, I think, especially our generation, our age demographic. Like a teen drama, that covers a lot of boxes to begin with, but then it really kind of, it wasn't like necessarily focused on like, how do I put this?
It wasn't
Like
regular teen drama.
it wasn't, and it was interesting too because it premiered on the Family Channel, of course, in Canada, and the Family
That was
Channel,
our version of the Disney Channel because we didn't
yes,
get Disney Channel till much later on.
yeah, like I think like a couple years ago or something. I don't
Literally,
know.
yeah, very recent.
Um, and like the rest of the shows on that channel, they're a Disney Channel show, so they're not really even for teens. They're for like, I don't know, maybe up until 12-year-olds or something like that. Like they're for younger people, like children a lot of the time. So a show like RFR bursts onto the scene and it's, I don't know, it's not mature, but it felt mature, right? Like it
Yeah,
had a more of a serious tone.
yeah.
It was, I think when it's that weird thing when you're growing up, right, where you and maybe this is how teen dramas are like trying to strike a chord with young people is when you're young you want to be older, right?
Yeah.
And then when you're a teen, you kind of want to find someone to relate with. So that's kind of the niche and the hope I think something like RFR is trying to get at. But along with that, it's also like, it's focused on music. I think we're both
Mm-hmm.
huge music fans in our own rights, and especially growing up. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like music was very important in
Absolutely.
our development, especially like, like emo and alternative and punk and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
which
They
isn't
kind of
like
covered the non-mainstream, like
that. Yeah,
right from the get-go. It's a radio show about like underground artists even at the time.
that's a good point. Cause it's not like, I don't know, the show doesn't directly like, it's not like about like a certain kind of music. It's just about like, yeah, I guess like alternative or underground
Mm-hmm.
music, but it's still like, it's still a teen drama. I mean, at the end of the day.
Totally. Totally. I think
So yeah, I mean,
we were looking for a break from Degrassi, and which was already on for a few years at that point.
it's
We
true.
needed something a little less gut wrenching. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Degrassi goes there,
Hey, whatever it takes.
whatever it takes. But RFR was almost like the more like wholesome, down to earth version of something like Degrassi, to some extent. They
Sure.
never really touched on super serious topics. It was more so just like four friends who ran a radio station and how cool that was. And
Yeah.
I was like the same as you more or less. Like I just saw the show and I instantly thought it was like made for me basically. And yeah, me and a good friend of mine would also actually try to reenact RFR, and which is funny and this is actually a conversation we had when we really wanted to start the show.
Yeah.
We found out that we both did this as children, which is fun and embarrassing at the same time.
Overall adorable, I would say.
And I remember
Cringy to think on, but
it's just like when you're a kid and you have the over-the-ear headphones, you immediately feel like you are an NPR host, like you are.
That's all
Yeah.
it takes.
So I don't know. That is, I guess, I don't know. Does that sum it up? Is there anything else about RFR, or should we introduce this show finally?
I think we should carry on.
Okay. Well, get ready, guys. My Teen Angst Has a podcast coming at you right now with Radio Free Roscoe. Okay. Now, this show, filmed in Toronto, Canada, produced by Decode Entertainment, and they produce a ton of Canadian shows. And now they're called something else, and they make like half the shit in the country now. Premiered on the Family Channel on August 1st. Okay, but here's the thing. It says it premiered August 1st, 2003 on Wikipedia, but then when I look at like the air dates of the episode, they're not until October.
So did it pull one of those like drop an episode to reel you in, but then not actually start the series till a couple months later?
Like a Glee?
I was literally gonna say just like Glee.
And I might just be like pretending I remembered it this way. You know how age does that to you.
Yeah.
But I actually think it might have been like that. Like I have a very, very vague memory in my head of like end of summertime, they like did a premiere of this new show,
Mhm.
and then it came back in the fall. I actually think that
I
did happen.
right, they kind of did like a preview of the fall lineup shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't, it's like I don't have that memory, but there's part of my mind that's like, yeah, that's what happened. I remember that. So,
for the record, we might be tricking ourselves into believing that. We might be gaslighting ourselves right now. But I mean, there you go. So whatever, premiered in the tail end of 2003, more or less. It later would go on to show on the N in the U.S., which was like a weird offspring of Nickelodeon. It was not quite Teen Nick. It was the N. I don't really know. If anyone has history about the N,
yeah.
please feel to let us know. But it was like for the cool kids, right? It was the Degrassi was on the N.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other shows that were on it. I want to say maybe One Tree Hill, but that could be totally incorrect. Things like that, though, were on the N. And the pilot was filmed in New Jersey originally with a completely different cast, but then that would eventually be scrapped, and they would recast the lovable foursome we know today. And yeah, they would keep that location, though, of Nutley, New Jersey.
Which
even though
I didn't. I knew watching it that it was a Canadian show,
right,
but like my young mind knew it like wasn't in Canada, like wasn't taking place in Canada, but I couldn't quite figure out what the deal was because I knew it was a Canadian show, but does it ever mention taking place in New Jersey?
that's a
I'm
good
trying
question.
to think in the first episode because they talk about how I mean like we'll get into it, I guess, but like it talks about a radio station reaching some US city, and I was like, at the time I was like, that's really far because
Right,
this is
because
in
you just think,
Canada.
yeah, you
This is
just think
so
from
far, but
yeah.
now it's like, oh, okay, it what, like 2 counties away? I don't know how the US works.
Yeah.
Like, was it close? I don't know.
Once people start talking about certain coasts, I just I don't even
Yeah.
know what's going on.
Well, and like they go to Henry Roscoe High, which again, Henry Roscoe is no Canadian person.
Yeah, that's true.
We wouldn't name a school after him, probably. So I don't know.
Most
I had a
likely.
lot of questions that back in the day Google wasn't quite as helpful as it is now. So I just lived with these questions until now.
I'm almost positive there is like throughout the show little like droplings of mentioning different like I don't know, US cities or like something in
Sure.
the US, but it's never like in the forefront. So it's never you never really know.
Super explicit.
No, that's exactly right. So it's a little bit weird because I don't know, especially like a lot of Canadian programming, it's Canadian.
It is very
for many reasons. For some reason, the lighting is always really dark. Like, you just know it's a Canadian show. But I would say this is actually an example of it's kind of in a gray area. Like, they don't act overtly Canadian at times. Anyways, that's just my opinion, I suppose. But
yeah.
Anyhow, the show, of course, centers around four. I would say superheroes, really, of my childhood.
100%.
Starting their own pirate radio station to sort of, I don't know, I guess counteract or battle against Cougar Radio, Roscoe High's own radio station, which and that is actually kind of a Canadian TV trope of like every single high school has a radio station for some reason, like radio.
Which, like in reality, I've never ever heard of a school here having their own radio show.
No, Degrassi.
Not where we're from.
Not
Degrassi had one.
Degrassi had one, and eventually a video show. I remember actually in my grade 12 year, my high school tried to start like not a YouTube channel, but they tried to do like video recordings of like news for the high school. And it was kind of cool, but it sounds cooler than it was, or if it doesn't sound cool to you, then it was really just lame.
It's because it wasn't.
It's because it's bad. But the host of this show, of course, which is what the show is named after, Radio Free Roscoe, was hosted by Lily, better known as Shady Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Beautifully acted by the one and the only Kate
Big
Todd.
Rock Kate Todd.
Then we have Travis, aka Smog, and he's one of the Nathans, right?
One of the Nathans. This is Nathan Carter.
Nathan Carter, not to be confused with Aaron Carter. Then we have Ray, aka Pronto. Um, is it Ali or Al McAdam or
So at the time, as the Radio Free Roscoe days, he was Ali McAdam. And then in current day, he is just Al.
is that right? Okay, that actually makes sense because when I was looking up stuff, I was getting some weird conflicting information. Also,
Yeah.
my memory was like, oh, he's definitely Ali.
Yeah.
But okay, so
I
no,
mean,
it's
if
kind of
you in the beginning of in the song in the beginning, his name is Ali.
the
So
opening credits as Ali. So
I
he's
mean, who
kind of
knows?
like
Maybe he never even went by that. Maybe that was just how they credited him. But of
maybe like when he got older, he just wanted to drop the I, like Bow Wow wanted to drop the Lil.
course, we've
I
all
guess
been there.
because that checks out. And then last but not least, we have Robbie, aka question mark, who another Nathan,
The other
Nathan
Nathan Stevenson.
Stevenson. Thank you.
Stevenson. Yes.
That rounds out the hosts, and they all kind of bring their own pizzazz and their own I don't even know, I guess character right to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets beautifully introduced in the debut episode from season 1, episode 101, The Power of Radio. Aired October 31st, apparently, on Halloween, which again is actually kind of a weird, like, half memory in my head of
Yeah.
like coming home Halloween night after having a big, like, not sleeping bag, a pillowcase full of candy. And like Radio Free Roscoe was playing on the TV. I do actually have a memory of
Sorting
that.
through your candy, sorting through your chocolate bars, watching RFR.
Yeah. And kind of being entranced actually because it's like what is the show is something special and I also have a fuck ton of candy. So
Hey,
you
the,
know,
the Canadian kid's dream.
Canadian kids dream. Do kids still trick or treat anymore? I guess not this year maybe,
Whoa.
but
Maybe not this. Will this be the end of trick or treating?
actually probably, unfortunately.
That's a conversation for another podcast.
I don't think I'm not even a little bit well equipped to have that conversation, so you're absolutely correct. I'm more of my knowledge is more Radio Free Roscoe based rather than health based, so I'm going to leave that for the professionals. Okay, so the tagline or the log line for this episode is the members of the gang who are just starting at Roscoe High are introduced. Lily, a musician. Travis, a slightly odd but charming outcast. Ray, a class clown, and Robbie, an independent guy who stands up for his beliefs. So within the episode, Lily has written a song, but she doesn't know if she can do stand up in front of a crowd to perform it. Ray tries out for the school play instead of soccer, and he's worried about what his father's going to think about him.
And this is 3 years before High School Musical hit.
That's a good point. So progressive in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
Both Robbie and Travis join Cougar Radio, but Travis quickly finds out that it's not really the voice of Roscoe High that he expected. Eventually, Robbie finds out as well. They both have an idea to create their own radio show and eventually pull Lily and Ray together for the ride. Will they have what it takes to make it on air as Radio Free Roscoe? So what did we think about the first episode? Because, I mean, they set up quite a bit actually in 22 minutes.
Yeah.
What did you think? Revisiting this too. When was the last time you watched this?
Okay, so I think I watched it within the last 10 years. I did find it on YouTube. I think I can find tweets about this from like 2010, 2011, maybe, where I found it online and I watched it. Or I watched what I could find at least. That being said, rewatching it now, I know this show so thoroughly, like more so than I even anticipated. I felt like I could quote the entire first episode. Just everything about it was I almost knew the music cues. It was really weird. I didn't realize it stuck that hard in my brain, but okay.
Well,
Rewatching it was honestly, it felt like going home. I'm not gonna lie. I had that feeling. It really did. It was really heartwarming for me.
well, I
I
think
felt like going
you
back
must
to
have
old
watched
friends.
this. You must have watched this a dozen times growing up, though. Like this particular episode,
For sure. Like I think
like
it
on
was
reruns and stuff.
yeah, I mean when you think about it, there was only 50, 52, 54 episodes and they just I think this show I think it says it on the Wikipedia, but like they aired this show on Family Channel until like 2008,
Yeah, like they did it for a
2007.
long time, and then I
It
think
like
even
they
recently they haven't as well.
Yeah. So yeah, it was I have seen these episodes, some of these episodes many, many times, but clearly I'm not sick of it. So here we are. But no, first episode felt great. I did have a lot like thinking about it without just watching it and like actually thinking about it. I did have a lot of kind of questions on a few things. I do remember as a kid watching it being like, wow, they're in high school, they're so old, they're 14. Wow. And then I remember when I hit high school being a 14-year-old, I was just like, I'm young. I couldn't host a radio show right now. What the heck?
Could
This
you
is
imagine me and you hosting a radio show when we were 14? It would have been terrible.
it would have been vaguely worse
Not
than
that this is
whatever I'm doing right
not that
now.
this is A plus content, but I can just guarantee any listeners out there that it would have been a tragic scene for sure.
Very
Emphasis on the scene.
honestly, if you think about how we wrote our Nexopia blogs in the
Oh my
years
god.
2008, 2009, 2010, probably.
That's
It's
actually
it's exciting.
that's something cool to bring up almost that might come up later in this show, but like RFR like it starts in 2003. So it's like it's kind of right before like social media.
Yeah,
So it doesn't really focus on that ever, and I think
that's
like at
part
least from these
of
first 3 episodes, and I can't
the
say for the rest of the show, but that has helped it age fairly
yeah.
well.
Hmm.
Because
I
shows
agree. I agree.
when they focus on like MySpace or Friendster or like early Facebook in some shows like that, it just ages kind of poorly, you know? Like
Yeah. Even technology in general, like they've got flip phones. They
yeah,
so like they've got cell phones, but they're not nothing near a smartphone, you know? So like it's just it's a different time.
it
And
really was.
but it's good. Yeah, I do you're right. I do appreciate that there's no social media. I think that's part of it, right? Is that like they're trying to get their show heard by their peers by putting up posters
Right.
and
Yeah, that's right.
get Mickey to play it at Mickey's disc. Like where they're like, "Hey man, I heard of this cool radio station that's just starting up. Can you play it for your listeners?"
And
That's it.
there's yeah, because like really, I don't know. The show ended in 2005 or six. I think it's five.
Uh, yeah, 2005 I think.
So like you really only could have made the show until then, because anytime after that, the kids would have been starting a podcast instead, and it just wouldn't have been the same.
No, they would have been I was gonna say they were gonna start vlogging, but I mean YouTube even then. YouTube wasn't really getting big till like was it in 07?
Yeah, I think YouTube would have been around, but you're right. Like there wasn't like popular vloggers then. They would have, yeah, yeah. That's something that I think helps this show. And I mean, I'm exactly with you. Like watching this again, I don't really remember the last time I've seen this episode specifically. I have the somewhat infamous greatest hits DVD,
Yes, as do I.
which has like 6 episodes from season
Yeah.
one.
It doesn't even give you a full season. It's just here's some good episodes from this season.
Complete bullshit. I hate when
Okay.
and there's to this day there's no like physical release of the show. So again, YouTube is your best way to do that, to watch them now. But yeah, like watching this again myself, I knew so many of these lines, and I kind of forgot that like some of these little like mannerisms and things they said really worked into my vocabulary as a young person,
Yep.
like without a doubt.
Prompt everything Ray says when he says best of both worlds.
Absolutely.
I was like, oh man, that literally
And
how
pre Hannah
many
Montana.
things did I combine? Hey.
I
They were ahead of the time, weren't they?
It's funny, you know, I think growing up I really what's the word? I connected with Pronto. I think I felt the most similar to him when I was younger. But now I don't really feel
Yikes.
that way.
Shinkies.
I know. And I don't think Pronto would really exist very well in a modern age.
I have opinions on your boy Ray.
And it's funny, right? Because I think I mean, I guess you can blame it on just being
The
young, I
writing.
guess, and not really knowing the sort of subtext of how he's acting in these episodes. But when you're older and you're watching them, it's definitely not very funny and not very cool.
No.
But
I mean at the time I'm sure we laughed and I'm sure we were like he's just
yeah,
being a jokester, but like yes, there's some attitudes he holds that
yeah,
did not age well.
and I guess it's not
That's how it goes.
it's not an excuse, but it was definitely this wasn't the only show to be doing that at the time. It was far more
100%.
it just accepted, I guess, more or less just like his views towards women are pretty pretty unfortunate. But at the same time, I do remember him maybe growing as a person as the show progresses. I could be wrong about that.
We're gonna hold out hope as we rewatch. We're gonna hope.
Because he does. I know he gets a girlfriend, and I'm curious how they interact.
He gets
So,
a couple. He gets a couple of girlfriends.
well, I mean, I think the show kind of says it all. Like when it opens up with "Hey Radiohead," that's the opening line to the show.
I can't believe you didn't just turn it right off.
I don't know. There's a lot of like obviously music is a huge part of the show, and I Shazammed some songs that were playing to like see what was in the show. The first episode there wasn't too much to, or actually a song at all really to make note of, but we do get Lily's song or Shady Lane's song.
Yes.
Where she's rocking out, or I guess Robbie's kind of rocking out listening to it, and he's mocking her kind of. It's like a really awkward scene, actually.
Yeah.
But it is kind of fun to rewatch this episode again and kind of see just the three of them hang out and like in their little space.
They started off like that's the setting, right? Is that it's three friends who have grown up together, starting high school, starting their teenagers, trying to figure out the waters of Roscoe High, and then you get Travis thrown in there, which thank God.
We have to talk about. Well, we'll get to Travis in just a moment, but we have to talk about this clubhouse of theirs.
That is like in my notes for the episode. My first note essentially is, why do they have this weird hangout spot? Who owns it?
It makes absolutely no sense to me.
There's locks on the doors. There is like, it's literally underground for their underground radio show.
It just doesn't seem safe to me. I don't think my mother would have allowed me to do that when I was 14. Well, no, maybe. Hard to say. But like, I know. Sorry, I meant that because like they would hang out all the time, like years prior.
Yeah,
in an abandoned basement.
Who is and I don't think we get any context the entire series. There's nothing. They just have this hangout spot that they've taken over, and it looks like you get to it through some weird alleyway.
Yeah, no, it's a little sketchy in hindsight, but I have to admit, like growing up, I thought that was the fucking coolest thing ever.
So jealous. I mean, it would have been insane. Yeah. But still, I just still question it. Like it's not gonna ruin the series for me, but it's still. We wouldn't be there. If you were a kid, like if you were a teenager, why would you ever go home if you have this sick basement, cool place that's weirdly set up in me? Like it's just the perfect setting for a
radio station. Well, I think it will add to the ongoing confusion of how mysterious RFR actually is to the town. Because I don't really have a note for that for this particular episode. We'll get to that, but oh wait, no, I do actually. On this episode, at the very end of it, they do their first broadcast on 88.1, which actually I have to ask you something, Jaimie. I don't know if they mentioned it. They mentioned if it was FM or AM.
Ooh. I'm sure I have a feeling it says it on the poster,
I think you're right. But
but
also, what is even like? I could probably look this up for myself because I have the internet to use. But what the fuck even is AM radio?
that
Like,
it I to me growing up AM radio is what my grandparents listened to for some reason.
and why
That's
does AM radio always sound worse? Like the sound quality of AM radio always sounds like 6 times worse, and I don't understand.
part of the charm.
I guess I'm just too much of a millennial to maybe make sense of that. But anyway, they have their first broadcast with just Ray, Robbie, and Travis.
Hmm.
Lily is not in attendance. She is just flipping through the discs at Mickey's discs. And she hears
We're
Ray on the
friends.
radio and immediately knows it's Ray as soon as he speaks. So that to me sets the tone for the entire show, where somehow people listen to hours and hours of these four talk, yet they don't know who they are.
There's like full episodes, full plot points about them trying to figure out people trying to figure out who they are, about the principal, their nemesis, trying to figure out who they are. And it's like, there's four people in this radio station, three guys and a girl.
Yes.
Who could it be? Who? One of them is a musician. The girl's a musician. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Should we talk about what our good friend Jane Harder said about a way to watch the
what our
show?
good friend Shady Lane said? Yes,
Yes,
we have our very own Shady Lane in our life that we met in high school, and it was wild that she ended up being very, very Shady Lane. So I was telling her about this whole endeavor we're doing here, and she goes, "Yeah, no, it's actually really kind of fun to watch the show with the perspective of Mickey always knows. Mickey always knows from the beginning that Radio Free Roscoe with their secret names, it's those four kids. He always the whole series knows.
Yeah,
And it's interesting. Why would he give him a chance? Why would he be like, sure, I'll turn the radio on to this random radio station for my list? I'm in a music store, but yeah, we'll just go to this random thing that who knows how it goes.
Robbie calls him on the phone and tells him to listen to the radio station. So he immediately hears Robbie's voice and then hears it again on the radio.
Hey, man, you want to like check out this new station? Sure, Robbie. Yeah, I'll check it out, buddy.
I do like Mickey though. I really am a pretty big fan of Mickey. A really wholesome guy. Yeah, so I'm going to keep that outlook moving forward. I think that's a funny way to think of the show. Hopefully it doesn't ruin any mystery for the listeners out there. But maybe also watching this again with that perspective, maybe it'll have a little maybe there's some fun Easter eggs, because in my mind there's definitely at least once or twice where Mickey like winks to the camera. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like there is a moment like that. And this might be jumping way too ahead, but I'm excited to do this right now with you, Jaimie, because my mind is kind of blurry on how the show actually ends.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit going into it, that like I have such vivid memories of this series. Such like I just feel like I know the whole thing so clearly, but at the same time, how does it like I know I've seen the finale, but like I don't remember it.
Absolutely.
It just seems very like and when you look on how they set up the show, there's 50 whatever episodes spaced over 3 seasons, but there's no clear season finales or like premieres. It's very like when you watch through, it just kind of goes to the next episode, and like other than their hair being a little bit different, because I know Robbie's hair is a little bit shorter in season 2. Correct. You don't really, there's no like the entire show takes place over the course of their grade 9 year.
Yeah, that's fucking hard to believe.
Right?
I think it is 4 seasons, and I think it's that 4th season that always gets me, because I really think whether it was Family Channel or the N or whatever was going on, the way it was like released and published or broadcast or whatever, I think they really fucked up with like how it was being shown at the time.
Yeah.
So in my mind,
agree.
Like
I remember, like I do remember the N doing the last 2 seasons?
Yeah, the
something
last two
like that.
seasons did the end did,
And
and I
like,
think I read something how the end eventually stopped wanting to fund the show, and the show just ended because of that.
wow, Jesus, and that's how all the good ones go, isn't it?
Like
But
even
I
quickly
remember,
glancing at the Wikipedia episodes for season 4, like these are episodes I remember, but I don't remember them being that close to the end of the show. I remember them
right.
seeming closer to me. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
Well, just that, like, I remember when it moved to the end, I remember them posting like a little like treats online about it. A little
Yeah,
like I
yeah.
I like I remember
Like
like
How to Lose a
Lily.
Girl. I think that was one of them.
Yeah, and like Lily trying to. There's songs about her trying to pick between
Oh,
the boys,
oh,
and
I
I
know
like remember
exactly what
them.
you're talking about.
Hard to pick
Like she's
just
at a
one
concert,
guy
she's
for
at like a
both.
live show,
Yeah,
and she's trying to decide.
yeah,
I've
and she's
seen
like
that
singing
clip.
about that. Yeah.
I remember downloading that clip illegally on LimeWire all the way back.
Yeah,
That is
I
crazy. I forgot about that.
right. So like I do remember them like teasing the new season. I say in quotation marks,
Yeah.
but
I always
yeah,
felt
it
like
just
the releasing of the episodes was weird and that I could be completely wrong about this, but I always felt like the last like I don't know, maybe 4 episodes like came out like months later for some reason. I mean, I guess I
yeah,
could like the dates here, but anyways, enough said. Like it really felt like it was hard. As much as we love the show dearly and have seen like I don't know 80% of these episodes a dozen times,
right,
it's like a little bit murky near the end. But
yeah.
I guess going back to episode 1 here, is there anything else you'd like to mention specifically about this episode before
Um,
we get into the next one? I guess.
well, my notes are oh my God, they are so young. Travis, I love you. Ray still annoys me. Lily is Jane. Why do they have this weird hangout spot? And why is Kim the top dog character for the radio? Or why is she the top dog DJ when she literally just started grade 10?
Okay, well let's break these down. Let's start. I think let's let's start with
We don't
Travis.
need to go too far into it, but that was just my
No,
initial.
I love it. That's perfect. Let's talk about Travis, Travie, if you will, Travie McCoy.
Boy,
Let's talk about Travie McCoy.
no gym class status,
No
just
gym class.
Travis.
Oh, that shit's iconic. Anyway, um, talk about Travis, aka Smog, or better known
Dog.
as wait, I wrote it down somewhere. Well, how did they combine his name? Smirk Dog, yes.
Our dog. Come
I
on.
didn't remember that. That's
I
anyway,
did.
we'll get there. We'll get there. So tell me about Travis. Jaimie, did you have a crush on Travis? Be honest.
Travis was my boy. This was again 9-year-old Jaimie, 10-year-old Jaimie watching this show, all these older boys, and I'm like, that one. That I like that one.
This
And
man
I
caught
don't know
your
what it was. I just thought he was so cute. I loved the him being like the mysterious one. Like
that is his
I
character to
don't
play. Absolutely what he's supposed to
it
be is
he
yeah.
did a great job. I don't know what it was. I in in here's a little throwing myself under the bus here, I guess. When me and my friend would play Radio Free Roscoe in my basement,
Oh, that's
um,
awesome. Yeah,
we
okay.
we were the DJs
Yeah,
with our
correct.
own radio show,
That checks
but
out.
but our fake boyfriends were Travis and Robbie. So
Well, they were lucky men. Okay, we'll put it that way.
you know
Very
what?
lucky.
I think so. So, anyways, that was
Well,
still to the watching it now. I'm just like, yo, boy, that's
he,
him.
he
That's Travis.
he's a bit of a heartthrob. I think it's hard to say that he isn't. I actually met.
Travis Strong. Like, what more do you want? Like,
That's true. It's a pretty yeah. That is a hot name. Let's be honest.
they
I
they did
um
that.
I should mention this from the top. I've met the whole cast.
Kyle, I
Or
know.
wait, no, someone wasn't there. Who was it?
Oh, I think you met two of them. If I'm thinking of the same thing that you're talking
Do I need
about,
to pause and go grab it?
maybe I could be wrong. I think I've probably tried to hide it in my brain. Here, just for those curious to what we're talking about, the year is 2006. Family Channel does this thing where they have actors from their shows do like tours throughout the country signing
Multiple.
autographs for the youth. And February of 2006, coincidentally, the same week High School Musical premieres, my family went to Mexico And
Wow, what a bummer.
the day we came home, Nathan Carter and Kate Todd, and
Yes.
then who else?
I think it's just them. I think it was just them.
Maybe
Yeah.
they were signing autographs at our local mall.
Lawson Heights Mall. Best mall in the city, but not.
Opinion. Yeah, and I didn't get to go because I was busy flying home from Mexico that day, and I remember being very upset about it. 'Cause, like, I couldn't, like, there they were in my hometown.
I hate to rain on your parade here, or sorry, add more rain to the parade. I was there in 2006. I waited in line at Lawson Heights Mall for like an hour and a half, wearing my extra large, the used sweater. Just trying with the hopes that I would meet my heroes, and I did, and I successfully have an autograph. It's like the classic promo shot of the four of them, and it's signed by Kate Todd and Nathan Stevenson. So, as far as I'm concerned, we go way. Sorry, Nathan Carter. But actually, that's funny. I never really liked Smog. Like, I remember because I wanted to meet Lily, or sorry, Kate Todd, because I guess I kind of.
She was the only girl on the show. That's why.
She was the only girl, so like, she's cool. Like, she likes music. She plays guitar. Like, wow, like cool.
Wow.
But I liked Robbie and Ray. They were like, I wasn't a huge Smog guy, so I remember being kind of bummed that it was him and not one of the other two, to be honest. But still,
for the record, this was before Kyle and I became friends.
That's
probably true. Good that it never came up at the time. I think we met that summer.
Yeah, for the listeners out there, me and Jaimie go way back. We know each other for many years, over a decade. Wow, almost a decade and a half. Or a decade. I don't even know anymore. I'm losing track. But actually, Radio Free Roscoe, yeah, it was made for kids like us, really, because we were your soon to be emo kids, or more or less. And the show,
on our way.
It was kind of a breeding ground for stuff like that. But anyways, I digress. Let's get back to this episode a little bit. We're really so Travis, that checks out. I understand. I can definitely see the appeal. One thing I noted here that I thought was interesting was this first episode. Are you showing me a current? Is that a current photo of Nathan Carter? Current. I hope that man's doing well. Great. Nathan Carter. Sorry.
Continue.
Okay. Nathan Carter, if you're out there and you're listening, we would love to have you on the show. So please keep ears open for that. Yeah, I love how the show opens up with like this school cafeteria scene of like people socializing like animals. This was before Mean Girls. And that's like
true. Very true. I did make a note of that in my mind.
So I know Mean Girls is based off that novel, like Teen Dreams and Teen Queens and Wannabes or something like that. I'm definitely paraphrasing and forgetting the title of that book, but I mean the scene in Mean Girls of that happening is pretty iconic, of them going through like the hierarchy of high school through the cafeteria and relating it to like, I don't know, like a safari. And they kind of do that in this show. So I thought that was kind of funny, and I don't know, that adds to a trope of like high school cliques that really don't actually exist that much. I mean, like in high school, I don't know, like there's groups of friends, but it's never that insane. And that kind of stuff,
never that explicit.
I think that kind of stuff is actually kind of negative for kids growing up. It made me a lot more scared to go to high school.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Me too. I was like, how do I become the Radio Free Roscoe kids and not the Ed and Ted?
See, I actually fuck with Ed and Ted. I think
no shade now. At the time.
Right, I see what you're saying. Okay, like Ed and Ed were like the nerds. You didn't want to be a nerd. Yeah. You wanted to be like a cool nerd.
This was like kind of before the nerd uprising of the 2000s, where nerds became cool, Yeah,
the nerd uprising. That's definitely for a different show. I thought that was pretty funny. I also like how Smog gets the radio receiver or transmitter from an army surplus store in Istanbul. And it's this like massive thing that I can only assume is heavy as hell. And he somehow brought
he's like, I'm gonna take this back to America with me.
probably cost his parents like $1,000 to like get that thing over here. I thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, I don't know. I think overall, as a debut or pilot episode, sorry, I think it does a good job of setting up the show. Um, I guess should we jump into the second one, because the thing about the first and second episode is they're not really a two-parter, but they premiered at the same time.
Yeah,
So
and they kind of do go hand in hand. Like they kind of the first episode really just introduces the characters and like they form RFR, but like you need the second episode to really understand.
Well, episode 2 also premiered on October 31st, 2003. And this one is called On the Air. We have Lily, Ray, Robbie, and Travis. They have marked their territory as Radio Free Roscoe from their inaugural broadcast. They've now done a few shows, but just because something is on the radio, does it have true meaning? This gang will soon find out. So this is the gang finding their sound, I guess, or finding what works for them. And they, I don't know. I think you're right. Like this episode does go hand in hand with the first, and it's kind of it's the growing pains episode,
yeah.
You know? Oh, but we also get introduced to two characters that you just brought up, Ed and Ted. I love Ed and Ted.
Yeah. Ed and Ted they shine here and there throughout the series. They have their moments.
I love their boy band Entropy.
We're not there yet, Kyle. We're not there.
I just need to make that known that I do really, really enjoy that later in the show. I guess something we brought up a little bit earlier, some of like the catchphrases and like ongoing things that appear in the show, they kind of debut in this episode. Notably, Best of Both Worlds. Like that was just like so deeply embedded in my brain. Again, it's way before Hannah Montana.
It's lunch and supper.
Oh, Lupper, yeah. That was in the first episode, actually. That was one of the first things he says. Yeah, I always think about Lupper, though. Or Linner.
Always.
I kind of yeah. I did not remember Smirk Dog, though. That is pretty funny. Smog's name coming from you Smirk Dog. Some weird ass.
All right, easy Smirk Dog. And he's like, Smirk Dog, Smog, Best of Both Worlds. And I'm like, okay, I'll take it.
I think in a way, as it's weird, my life has shifted so much throughout watching the show. Like as a young child, a young kid trying to be funny to everyone he met, I really liked Ray. But I think I'm more of a question mark guy now. I think I can relate more to question mark. Especially I love question mark.
That's growth. Growing from a Ray to a Robbie.
Exactly. Kind of a complex character, because he's this kind of guy that he kind of wants to be pretentious, but doesn't want to be pretentious. He's a true hipster. He's a true hipster, basically.
Oh, isn't he? He is the OG. He really is.
And that is so funny.
Especially in the beginning here. He's got questions. He's got so many questions. Yes. But as a friend, he's a very good friend to his group, you know, like he is very supportive of Lily's trying to do her live music, and like he supports Ray who wants to be in the play, and he's like, dude, you gotta tell your dad. You gotta tell him you don't want to play soccer. Like he just, you know, he's there for you, you know. And then he takes in Travis right away.
He's kind of the best, actually.
Like Ray is not super down on Travis because he thinks he's weird, but Robbie's like, but he's actually cool and is gonna help us set up a radio station. So I think we actually should be friends with him.
Yeah, like I forgot how much of like a bitter asshole Ray is. Like he's very jealous, quite neurotic.
Don't get me started.
Like the way he treats.
Notes on episode. We're not there yet, but notes on episode 3. Ray is the actual worst.
Okay, well, that's. I think that applies to this episode as well.
It does. You're right.
This episode though does feature some notable music. A song from the Rockets' Summer, "Sky So Blue."
Amazing.
You guys out there might remember the Rockets' Summer from their hit song "So Much Love," or "Do You Feel?" But this is from their first album, so I don't know if this will be an ongoing trend. In my mind, it is, but I can't remember. But I feel like Radio Free Roscoe was a bit of a trendsetter for some certain bands and songs, like featuring artists that were either popular at the time or would go on to be popular. There's not a huge like notable like star. They weren't like making stars out of the show, but that added to like the cool factor of the show, right? Like
Yeah.
you'd
It
find out
wasn't.
new music by watching
Yeah.
RFR.
Right.
Like
Jumped
this
on
isn't like
Wildfire immediately after to.
yeah, this isn't quite like Grey's Anatomy. We all buy Snow Patrol's album next week. It's not quite on that level, but you know,
Until
it
this day, I still remember the Pettit project. So
well, yeah, we will without a doubt talk about the Paddock Project and all 99 of their lives eventually. But uh okay, but about the Rocket Summer though, do you remember? I don't know why I thought of this, but do you remember the band Reliant K?
I actively listen to Reliant K still. Yes.
Okay, so you do. Like, were they connected in some way, or am I absolutely out to lunch?
Maybe they toured together. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't.
Are they both like
I personally.
somewhat Christian acts?
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Okay. Anyway, bit of a side note, but oh, I also love Ed and Ted, the Stank Factor 11 rating system of the initial RFR broadcast, and then how it was subsequently brought up to a Stank Factor 13. That is so funny to me. And there used to be this. How do I describe this? I'm trying to think of the time frame of my childhood, but I feel like it was probably influenced by Ed and Ted at my like elementary school dances.
Oh boy.
When like the DJ would be playing music, uh, after like a song or two, like me and like my like good friends, we'd like bust into the boys' washroom and like rate like sort of the ambiance or the time we were having. Total 7 right now. Or,
Kyle, I'm not gonna lie. You still do that
I
for
know.
most things in your life.
Not much
And
has changed.
honestly, it brings me a lot of joy to know that started with Ed and Ted.
I mean, now I really just like live my life in letterbox reviews, but I think I have Ed and Ted to thank for my critical output. So I'm gonna try and bring back stank factor. I don't know. Like, is the factor 13? Is that like, is it out of 10 and it's reached such a stank factor that it's like it's 130%? Like, how does this like?
It's gotta be. I gotta be that way.
But okay, so in this episode is when they first say, I think it's when they first say that they are 14. I don't know if they say it in the first episode.
Yeah, they say that they're like ninth graders in the first episode.
Right. Okay.
But then it's starting high school. But then so the whole plot here is that they all have to take these mandatory aptitude tests, which like I really thought would be a bigger issue in my life when I saw this episode. We never even had those when I was in high school. No test ever told me what I was gonna be or what I should be when I grow up. They also did this in Degrassi.
They did, yes. Do you want to know what they told me to be?
A host.
I can relate with Lily because they told me to be a filmmaker, which is just boring.
Right.
And I think they also told me to be like, I always found this funny. I think my like second option was like entertainer, but like subcategory was like like carnival or like what's the word I'm thinking of that I can't think of right now? Like not a rodeo. What's it called?
What?
Circus. Like a circus performer. Which I always think is funny because in Degrassi, I'm pretty sure Spinner gets something that says he's supposed to be a rodeo clown.
Yeah, Spinner's supposed to be a rodeo clown or a cop.
Which, okay, well,
we'll get there.
We'll eventually talk about Degrassi to some extent, but yeah, you're right. So they take these attitudes.
So these aptitude tests. So I just for my own little memory box here. My sister and I quoted the classic Travis Strong quote, "A lawyer. That's not even donkey related." We've quoted that for years. I like whatever context we somehow still quote that. So when I was watching this episode, and it shows that like Ray is looking over everyone's shoulders trying to cheat on his aptitude test, which just shows you what kind of guy he is.
But that is like, kind of a funny gag, I have to admit. That's kind
of... Travis holds up his, and he's shaded in all the little dots of the donkey. And then when he gets his results, a lawyer. That's not even donkey related. I just kills me to this day.
No, that is awesome. Yeah. They all read him out. Lily gets musician. What does Robbie get again? He gets, I can't even remember.
I don't even remember.
Obviously not that memorable, but they take these tests and they generally find it sort of meaningless. They feel like they should protest about the
Well,
fact that they're taking this and the fact
yeah,
that it's
they're
kind of like,
14. Like
yeah,
they are youth.
I do remember taking whatever you would call it, that kind of test. Yeah, it must have been like grade 11 or 12 for myself. So later in high school, definitely not in grade 9. And it's a lot of pressure. I can understand it. So they're kind of like standing up for something they believe in. Very cool. And through this, they kind of learn how to, I don't know, be comfortable with themselves on the show, because they try to like be very serious at first and it fails, and then they try to be very like boisterous and like nonsensical, and that also kind of fails. That for the record is a stink factor 11, or sorry, 13. And then eventually Travis just records them without them knowing, which honestly is like kind of fucked, but
But also, like, the fact that they are trying to be, I know they bring this up too, where they're like, we could have exposed our identities, which, like, all right, Robbie, calm down. But, like, it's true though. They could have said anything, and
a little
it would have
scary.
then been broadcast. A
I
little
guess
weird,
it's
but
pre-internet, so in their defense, they couldn't get canceled for whatever they said 8 years later. So
very true.
I guess that's a bonus. But yeah, through them discussing the aptitude tests, they eventually are just kind of themselves on the radio, and I don't know, it's kind of a heartwarming end to the episode. Like, it sets up the tone of the show. It sets up like what would
Yeah.
be my lifelong dream. Like the show's like, it's a good second episode. I mean,
Hmm.
if it does lead very well in from the first one,
Yeah.
it's not sort of as it doesn't have to cover as much ground because it's already kind of set up from the first like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. They set up other characters too that are of course relevant. We haven't talked about Kim Carlisle much yet, actually,
You're right. We have not.
because Kim Carlisle, like,
She really, like, I would argue she is as much a main character in this series as the four of them.
I
You
could not
know?
agree more. Totally.
Like her whole yeah, she is the DJ of Cougar Radio with her catchphrase that we all know and love. Yo and hello, this is Kim Carlisle. Which,
God.
how often did I like? Ask me how long I answered the phone saying that when I was a kid. Like,
Yo and hello.
yo
Hey.
and hello.
Hey, hi,
Jaimie, hand
hello.
the phone to your mom. Okay. so so like, yeah, so Kim Carlisle, she they set her up as their like, what is it, antagonist,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
the
like
antagonist. Yeah, the
she's
yeah,
their,
she's yeah,
because
she's
yeah,
the she's the baddie. She's sort of a villain, I guess you could say, to some
yeah,
extent.
which is hilarious because really, like, what did she do wrong? She is
Nothing.
the host of the radio station that already existed
She
and
just
plays Cougar and plays pre-approved playlist by Principal Waller.
Yeah, if anything, it's Waller's the villain. If anything,
That's true. I think he's
like
the villain, but she's the foil.
yeah, he's the final boss.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
definitely. Which,
I
hey,
guess
and like,
she has a bit of an attitude. I guess that's the only thing. Like she's kind of snarky to them, but I mean,
there's
whatever.
a chip on that shoulder.
Yeah,
Which, yeah, I guess, and like, we will
we'll
we get
delve.
further. Yeah, we'll get further into the Kim Carlisle whole situation, whole story. But
But
in
we
these first couple episodes, it's very, very brief. We just
Well,
know
I
her
think you
as
mentioned it earlier. Sorry, I think you mentioned it earlier, but yeah, she's only a year older, but she is like the head of the station.
like, and Waller just loves her. So it's like they were interviewing or whatever the new, like, when Robbie and Travis were trying to get on with Cougar Radio, he's like, oh, like, Kim Carlisle, who is the greatest person ever.
Yeah.
But like, she just started grade 10. She's 15. Like, she is still, like, I don't know. It's
Yeah, that makes almost no sense. Hey.
no, not
I
at all. So
yeah, I love when they have like that training session too,
yeah,
because they're like it's as if she has been there for 4 years or something like that, but she's
yeah.
really only been there for like
She was
9
literally in
months
the
more.
same place as these guys a year earlier, like this time last year.
Yeah, so I mean the setup and hierarchy of Cougar Radio is very questionable. um I would be curious to know how in the world that got set up. But yeah, she becomes
There's no one old, like there's no grade, there's no, what is it in the States, the sophomores or junior? No,
how
she's
does
a
that?
sophomore.
I've never known
She's
how
a
that works.
sophomore. There's no juniors or seniors who are part of Cougar Radio. Is
Well,
it really that toxic of an environment that they're like, they learned?
or did it just start the year before? Like, I have so many questions.
Again, this is,
I don't know. I think
we never learn the answer to most of these.
I think as my memory serves me, I think I end up enjoying Kim Carlisle quite a bit more as the show goes on.
She gets so much better. She
Yeah.
does.
I mean, I guess
I'm not gonna lie. No, she does get better. She has more plot lines. There's the whole Robbie situation with her. There is one season. She comes. I think it's season 3. She comes back. She's back on the show with her hair in braids, and she is the baddest bitch when she comes back with those braids. Oh my! I remember watching it being like, this is a turning point. This is it. Kim Carlisle. She is that bitch. So
I'm looking forward.
We'll get there.
I'm looking forward to that. I guess maybe we'll get into episode 3. What do you think?
All right, let's dive in.
Okay, episode
3 takes we actually get storyline. You know what I mean?
You're right. I'm trying to figure this out right now because I am confused once again about the fucking air dates of this show. So apparently episode 3, About a Girl, which I think is named after a Nirvana song, but in our minds, an Academia song. It says it. Yeah. Says it aired. Is it About a Girl or is it?
No, it's About a Girl.
Okay. It aired on August 1st. So before October 31st. So I'm just like so confused. So did this episode premiere first? Like, how does this work? August, like, I don't know. Maybe we should finally take advice to all of our high school teachers and not use Wikipedia as a educational source. But anyways. So we won't dwell on that too much, but that, for the record, is confusing. If anyone out there can tell us how that actually makes sense, please let me know. I'm very curious. But yes, this episode, it has Lily kind of as the forefront of the plot or drama, I guess. Lily starts attracting attention because she's hanging out with one of the most popular girls in school. She's wearing dresses and flirting with cute guys.
How dare she?
I know, outrageous. Ray seems to care greatly with hidden meaning. When he tries to sabotage Lily's date with Lee Johns, Robbie and Travis are almost positive that Ray has stronger feelings about Lily than they originally thought. It seems like he likes her more than a friend. Will everyone's love life work out, or will they all realize that love really bites?
Wow, I'm intrigued.
So yeah, this is definitely a pivotal episode. Like, I remember this one very very clearly.
Yep.
So Lily becomes friends with, is it Audrey? Is that right?
So yeah, Audrey is they introduce her as just being like a fairly popular girl. She's a very girly girl in comparison to Lily. And Lily and her have a class together, I think. So she approaches them because to give Lily's notes back or whatever.
Yeah,
which then, sparks the conversation from the boys about how hot she is, I guess, from Ray, how hot she is.
Yeah, what did he say? He said, I wrote it down. Oh, can I get some fries with that chick?
Yikes. Yikes.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Lily kind of, Audrey wants to hang out, and Lily's like, but I can't because I can only have 3 friends. Sorry. But then,
which honestly is kind of fair.
Busy time. But then no, she's like, you know what? No, I do deserve some time away from the boys. It gets overwhelming. Super fair. Because that's the thing. Lily as a character, I feel like I've gone through love-hate feelings towards Lily over the course of my lifetime. But like, looking at it now, Lily was never really one of the like, I'm not like other girls kind of girls, you know? She just happened to be friends with boys. Yeah. And in this episode, she makes it very clear that that's not because she doesn't, not because she thinks she's like better than the girls. That's just how it's been.
Like
once
she
Audrey
relates
kind
to
of
these three boys more than she does to other
yeah,
women in her life, kind of thing.
totally. And so then her and Audrey hang out, ditches the boys to go hang out with Audrey, and it's it's I mean it's a little bit it's like don't change your personality for anybody, and
Right.
Audrey's like, ooh, a boy likes you. You should put makeup on. And she's like, well, golly, I guess I'll put makeup on and dresses for this boy. But like, it doesn't really read that way. Like, it kind of like you still come out of it being like, Lily's just trying new things.
Like, yeah, you're right. That is the subtext, but it's not super pushy, I don't think.
No, it's like she is branching out of her comfort zone, not only
Yeah.
for the boys, but
But for
for her
herself.
own sake. Yeah, because she
Yeah.
wants that relationship. She wants that like to have a girl friend as
Right.
well,
Yeah.
So
And
that's
she
how I watching this episode. That's how I kind of took it. Is it's not a pushy like Lily change who you are because it says like Lee Johns or whatever thinks she's cute before she ever puts the makeup on. So
That's a very good point. I think you're right. It does help knowing that she sort of does all of this willingly. She's not being totally peer pressured.
yeah,
Maybe a little bit, but we've seen worse in these shows.
she's 14.
Uh,
She's just trying to find herself.
I do love though when she rolls into the school wearing, I don't even know, I
Dress
guess a dress, and she has some makeup and like
and lip
heads have
gloss.
just turned. I just can't help but think of Manny rolling into grade 9 wearing a thong. It's a very different show.
Oh man, people
But
look for different reasons.
and I love that of course Robbie has a girlfriend, a long distance
Oh,
relationship that he
Eve,
corresponds with.
look a winky face. Maybe she has something in her eye.
Oh man, that yeah, I love
Again,
that because that
Robbie
that is
stays wholesome for this episode.
what's
You
that,
know,
sorry?
Robbie stays wholesome in this episode, even with his long
Oh,
distance.
without a doubt. And then he's who is he talking? One of them says like, why don't you
Okay,
send her the
so
MP3 file?
oh my god, listen to the MP3. Oh, Robbie, adorable. I think Travis hooks him up there.
Yeah, he
Well,
sends
and
her
Lily,
a pure volume link.
when Lily walks into the school with her makeup and her dress, and Ray is having a shit fit about it.
Oh,
She walks up and Robbie goes, "I think you look very nice today, Lillian." And she said,
yeah,
thank you, Robert." Which that's another thing that has stuck in my mind for the
yeah.
last decade.
I think I can actually. I don't know how to make any sense of this, but I think I can directly relate to that very saying very well throughout my life. Like I always remember that like Robbie and Lily's friendship is quite wholesome throughout the show.
It is. It really is. They never have any kind of weird.
Will they? Won't
I
they? Like
yeah, like they don't really ever fall into that territory. Or I think maybe it does happen once, but it's like a miscommunication
yeah, yeah, you're
where
right.
Robbie thinks she likes him. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Or vice versa?
no, I
No,
think
I
you're
think
right.
it's Robbie
Something
thinks.
like that.
But beyond that, they just like they are buds. They are buds through and through,
And
and it's great.
I always appreciated things like that because myself growing up, I didn't have many like male best friends. I had like one, and I mostly had like female best friends. And it was
I
always nice to see some of that representation
yes,
on television. So shout out Robbie
Kyle.
for
I think you might be the Robbie to my Lily. I think that's been our friendship
that's the
since the
nicest thing
beginning.
anyone's ever said to me. As long as I'm not Ray, I think I'm good.
No, you're definitely not Ray. That's for damn sure.
I
We wouldn't be friends if you were.
that's a
I
very
got
good
other Rays in my life that I've gotten rid of.
damn. Okay, some songs in this episode. We
Mhm.
have Just a Song by River City High, which is I do remember that song. And then we also have Starstruck by Yellow Card,
Seeing some yellow card in there. I love it.
which again, this is pre-Ocean Avenue. So or
Barely.
it would have been like maybe the year of Ocean
Might be
Avenue.
the same album.
It's a different album. I looked it up, but I think so like whatever, they're becoming famous like as this premiered. So
Yeah.
again, playing some cool hip alternative rock for the youngins.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think as much as Robbie is wholesome, actually, I do find just like Lily pretty wholesome as well. Like I find her to be a character that as the show progresses, she really becomes more and more comfortable with herself, which
Yeah.
is really admirable. And I don't know, to me at least, I don't know how you would feel about this, but I feel like she comes off as a pretty decent role model, like on the show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Watching it again, like as I've said, I've had a love-hate relationship with Lily over the years, just because I don't know. I think when I watched it initially, I was like, I want to be her. But then
Right.
there was something, I think, and it was more of a me thing. But watching it when I was a bit older, I was something about her kind of drove me crazy, and I like in this moment can't figure out what it was, because watching it now, I'm just like, no, she's just doing her thing. She's just
Well, I
Lily.
kind of know what you're talking about, where it's sort of like she's not a shitty character, but at the same time, she is sort of a trope. So you're kind of just
Yes.
annoyed of that to
I
some
think maybe
extent.
that's what it was. Yeah. There's
I,
just
I
something,
can,
and it's like,
yeah, I get
why
that.
is everyone in love with her? I don't like, what is the, what's the actual appeal here beyond her being like the only female main character?
Right. And in reality, it probably just is that. And
Yeah.
that's sort of an issue in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. But Ray and Lily, though, is also what kind of comes out of this episode, which is unfortunately iconic.
Ray admits, after a little teasing, Ray admits that he might kind of like her a little bit more than just a friend, and he hates it because, you know, they've just been friends for so long.
Scandalous.
And oh my god, and yes, I do. I feel like this is one of the first, in my memory at least, this is one of the first times I ever saw this, of like the best friend being into his female friend.
Right. Which
I mean, like I know it happened
is on everything ever, but this was your introduction. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Every John Hughes movie ever pretty much had that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess
it just, and I think it sets it up just so important. And I mean, I know it's a reflection of dumb high school boys who don't know how to portray their feelings properly, but like he's such an asshole this whole episode. It's so hard to watch. He's just an asshole over and over again. And the other guys are just like, hey, Ray, maybe don't do that. She's not gonna love it. And he's just like, nah, I think I'm gonna do it still. And it just drove me crazy.
I think it's also annoying because we've met this guy before. Like,
we all know this guy.
Yeah, everyone who's ever seen this has met someone like Ray, the jealous, annoying, controlling, just whatever type. I don't know. It's weird though because he's one of our main characters, and he's not lovable, but he's the comic relief. So like he brings something to the table. So it's unfortunate that he comes off as such a piece of shit.
At the time, though, realistically, watching it at the time, I guess
I never felt that strong. Yeah,
we wouldn't have read it this way. This is definitely it's a time. It's a change of the times, but it also, like, I don't know. It's one of those unfortunate things. Like as you said, we all know this guy. It's unfortunate because this is someone probably watched this and was like, "That's okay. I can do that. That's funny." And
that you're right. That is the whole issue itself. Yeah,
because he comes off scot-free in the end. He does. Like she's mad at him, but it works out in the end.
Yeah, he doesn't really receive any repercussions for being
he just jerk. Like she storms out a few times. He's mad about it. He's super shitty about it, and then they everything's fine in the end. Like they make up because she realizes that Lee Johns just isn't all he's cracked up to be, you know?
Yeah, and they, you know, this is important, of course, because they become the show's will they, won't they, more or less. And I think we need to solidify right now, like, what is their ship name? Is it Really or is it Lay?
Really? No, you know what? I feel like watching it growing up.
Lay? Really? We can percolate on this
either way.
I know both are. I think TBD. Really, it might be Really. I think we might have to go Really.
Yeah.
So this is the birth of Really, and also, I don't know, a pretty good example of the show dealing with, like, I guess, gender politics in multiple ways. It handles it fairly well. Besides Ray, I would say everything centering around Lily handles pretty well.
Here's my note. Lily is 100% right about needing time away from the dudes, and how it's a double standard when girls hang out versus when guys hang out. It's a whole thing on the show, right? Is that Ray is like, you can ditch the show to play dolls, but you know, this is serious business. And she's like, hold the goddamn phone. That is not like when girls want to hang out, it's playing dolls, it's playing dress up. But when guys hang out, they're just hanging out. Like it's just chilling, no big deal. 100%. I was like, yeah, girl, you tell him. And then they got all those phone calls of girls agreeing, which is exactly what would have happened.
There was a full-blown girl power moment.
Yep. So, hell yeah. It's true. They were being shitty about that. I mean, because Robbie does throw in like I'm happy for you having a girlfriend, a female friend, but you can't ditch the show to hang out. He does toss some of those in, but like you can feel that it's coming from a place of like neutrality.
He's saying that in more of like a scheduling manner. Like he wants her to, like he takes this as a job, and you have to be there.
He doesn't care where she was. She just should have been at the show.
Exactly. Which I can.
Grandma's dying, dude. But the thing is, like, we had a show tonight. Like do better next time.
I'm definitely connecting more and more with Robbie as the episodes go on. Any other notes? Anything else?
Yeah, I do have another note. So another subplot here. Along with the girl guy, everything. Yeah. Audrey's interested in Travis. I don't blame her. He's a stud. He's not interested initially because he's like, girls get to know me, and I'm just like too much for them. And I'm just like, yeah, Travis, I get it. You are too much. So super fair. But Lily really pushes it. She's like, you know what? Give it a shot. Audrey's pretty chill. You should try. Here's her number. So then my boy Travis eventually calls her number. She's, hello? He holds the phone up to the music playing and just holds the phone with just distress look on his face. And I'm like, oh, honey. Oh, no. So God. My note on that was, it sounds romantic in theory, but in reality would be real weird.
But it's your favorite song. He plays your favorite song.
Still weird. Still, you know, like
that's true.
If tomorrow some guy calls me, says nothing, and just plays my favorite song, I'd be like,
insult. Yeah, I you're right. That wasn't the smoothest Travis moment ever, but
like I get it. Like you're like, we can't all be Lloyd holding up the boombox outside your window with my radio, but
yeah,
it didn't land for me personally, but fine. Next time.
I think that is going to be an example of something that will happen on the show many more times, of just pure like cheese and cringe. Absolutely. As much as the show, I think, has aged a bit better than other shows of its time, there's still some there's still moments like that. Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
that was my note.
That's about all I have for episode 3 as well. So that actually kind of brings us to the end of this episode. So, we covered the first 3 episodes of Radio Free Roscoe, and we'll be doing the next 3 on our next episode of My Teen Angst Has a Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, if anyone listened to this. We
really are just like Radio Free Roscoe in the very beginning there.
Yeah. God, you're right. Oh my God. It's all simulation.
That's why we're starting with this show. That's why it all comes together.
It's all full circle. But if anyone has any suggestions for shows in the future to cover, please let us know. We do have, a bunch we already have in mind, but there's only 50 some episodes of this show. We're doing 3 episodes at a time, so we'll try to, power through this at a decent rate. And if you have any suggestions of things maybe we haven't thought of, please let us know. We're looking to cover teen dramas primarily from Canada, but it doesn't have to be from Canada, and ideally shows that aren't like 4 episodes deep into its lore. So anyways, Jaimie, any ending notes, anything else we should tell the world here?
I don't think so. I'm excited. I'm honestly really excited to rewatch the show and have conversation about it, because turns out I have a lot more feelings about this show than I ever thought to admit.
And I think it's safe to say that we are, without a doubt, just getting started. This will there'll be a lot more to talk about. But anyways, thank you so much for listening. This has been episode 1 of My Teen Angst Has a Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kyle. And with me, of course, is
Jaimie.
So thanks for listening, everyone. And you all take care out there, and we will hopefully see you again soon.